Hiya, welcome to Tato Talks, where I, Potato, talk about anything really. Today, we'll talk about where I've been, how I've been doing, and what's going on. Hiya, it's me, Jay again, back from the dead. This is basically a reboot of basically my idea from 7 years ago when I studied abroad in Japan, and my friends all wanted to know what I was up to. And they liked it, but I just didn't have time back then just due to studies. And like, the whole back and forth thing, I couldn't keep it consistent. But now that I'm working back in Japan again, I hope that I can actually make this consistent. Hopefully, maybe a weekly thing. I don't really know. I'm just gonna test it out for now. But um, I guess starting from the beginning, finished study abroad, went back home, graduated, liked Japan a lot, applied for the JET program, got back into Japan after graduation, uh, and then the pandemic hit. And then I was stuck there, which is probably the best place to be stuck, to be honest, because, it's Japan. But um, I was living in the middle of nowhere. There wasn't really much to do. And because I was basically technically hired by the government there, I was very like heavily scrutinized if I did anything, which I can always get into later. But COVID times in Japan were kind of rough. I actually like started balding and I had to go to like a dermatologist and he was like, "Yeah, it's probably stress induced." I'm like, "Thanks." But luckily, health insurance covered most of it. So that was for 4 years. A lot has changed in terms of teaching English in Japan since then. But I basically lived in Miyagi, prefecture, for 4 years. And the fourth year, they were like, well, the city is shrinking and we're closing schools and we don't plan on hiring new English teachers, assistant language teachers specifically. And I was like, well, it is still like a pandemic. The country is still shut down. This is when, oh my gosh, this is so far back. It feels like forever ago. But the country is shut down. So I was like, well, my best chances of finding a job are now. And mind you, I did. I did try. I started early. But here's the thing. I was a little too overconfident that the country would stay closed just because like that was the basically the trend. It was getting like quote unquote better with the like vaccinations and the fact that like had like quarantine measures and everything. It was going like that was like it was getting more open. You can still travel at that point. But in my brain, I was thinking, well, less competition. I don't have to compete with people from overseas. Let me find a job. But what my mistake was is I didn't en masse send out applications. You should always try to send out more than once a month. That's what I did. Basically, for every month leading up until the end of my contract, because I was a contractual worker, basically starting in January. I started looking for jobs in that December, but that same time December, I actually decided not to recontract with the JET program because you have to renew it every year. So starting in December, I started looking for jobs, picked up a few that I liked, but I only applied to one every month. And because the interview and like hiring process takes about 3 months ish. Like the interview, at least you'll know. Um, but like a couple of weeks after the interview, if you're like gonna be put into to the next step. So I started in January, got rejected the one in the January, sent out another application at the end of January, got an interview in February, interviewed it, got rejected from that one. Well, those two, that makes sense. I was lacking in experience. My Japanese was not good at all. I had just failed the JLPT N2, which, for those who don't know, basically there's a Japanese language proficiency test, and the lowest you start at like baby level, elementary school level is N5, and like near native level is N1. So I had passed the N3, which was like right in the middle, but that is no longer like a minimum for working in business Japan. Business level is typically N2, which is one step above it. And I tried passing that test the year prior, and I failed. So I knew where I was. I was like, I'm like upper. I'm like I'm like lower N3, up like very high like basic conversational level, but I'm terrible at testing. So I understand why those two jobs rejected me, because one was a job that I had no experience and I was just very interested in like the company and what I want, like what to do there. The other one was just like they didn't. Once they found out that I wasn't actually a native speaker of Vietnamese and English, they like you can see that the interview kind of just died there. I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, I am like Vietnamese in my blood, but I don't speak it. They're like, oh, do you have any questions for us? And I'm like, nope. Well, yeah, I did, but like I was just like, well, that's the end of that. But yeah, so basically I did that, and I thought for sure I got this one job that I interviewed for in Tokyo, which was for like a English conversation school, but it's still like kind of like a dispatch, because you have like one company you work for, but you go out to the different branches, and basically it's an after school program for a lot of the kids. And because they had interviewed me online, because we're doing a lot of online interviews, and the thing was that after the online interview, you go in person. And mind you, Miyagi, the city I was placed in Miyagi, was basically, I guess to put it into context, in driving, was 6 hours away, but like a 2 hour Shinkansen, like a bullet train away, with a couple like in between trains. But that's still expensive. That's like almost $200 per like ticket one way. Luckily, they actually opened up the JR East Rail Pass, which is basically a $300 rail pass that is unlimited, like bullet train, local JR trains and everything, and that's for 5 like, consecutive days. So I mean, luckily there was that, but those are expensive. So I thought I was a little overconfident on getting like going to that interview. I was like, I got this. Like, who else are they gonna invite? Mind you, this is like I think 2 months before my contract ended. So I think you know where this is going. I didn't get the job, but it was kind of weird because I had applied it. What was it? January, February, March, April, May, June. I had applied in like May, and my contract ended in July. So the online interview was at the end of May, but they didn't get back to me till like middle of June. They asked me to come down. So I'm like trying to count out the days. And so I was like, because one, I thought because I'd never got like you passed your interview thing until like way later. So I thought I failed. So I wasn't like, I was looking at like different jobs at the time, but then they were like, oh, can you come down to Tokyo so we can interview you in person? And I was like, yeah, sure, totally. In my brain, I'm like, I got this job. So then I stopped looking at jobs. Number one mistake. That's my bad. But so I got rejected from that job literally like maybe like 3 weeks before my visa expired. And the thing about my visa, it was tied to my work contract. And so my apartment contract, my work contract, my stay in Japan visa, basically my working visa, ended all on the same day in July. And I had 3 weeks to find a new job. And it was really weird because like I said, like in Japanese interviews or in like process takes about 3 weeks. So I was cutting it close. So I didn't want to be kicked out of the country when this happened. So I went to get a temporary stay visa, because in the JET handbook, you can still actually see this now. Like if you look at older versions of the handbook, it says that if you want to stay in Japan past your job contracting working days, like, so you're not in the country illegally, because if you overstay your visa, it's an automatic like deportation if they find out. So I got it renewed to a temporary working visa because that's what the handbook said. I was like, oh, you can stay up to like 90 days to look for a job. I'm like, cool, I'll do that. So I had interviewed for a job. Then 2 weeks before my visa expired, I applied for the temporary visitor visas, thinking that I can just easily switch it over. And turns out, because of the Olympics, technically the 2021 Olympics, they had, well, I guess building up to it, they had introduced a new law, a new immigration law that I didn't hear about, how you cannot go from a short-term visa to a long-term working visa anymore. And this is how they hired a lot of English teachers back in the past. Like in Japan, like there was a lot of issues with it because those visas they can take up to like 3 months to process, right? And so you would have people coming here on a short-term visa, getting a job, and then immediately working 3 months, but their visa hasn't gone through yet. So they're working technically illegally, and the company cannot pay them until they get their visa, so they don't get in trouble. So some people are reportedly like, I'm working, but I don't have any money. Like, I'm not getting the paycheck. So in order to, like, I guess curb that issue is that you cannot go from short-term visa anymore to long-term visa. And apparently this is what happened with one of my friends who came from study abroad, who came here on a tourist visa and wanted to get a job, but they were like, no, you can't do that. And let me tell you, I did try everything. I went to like the foreign residence service, and I feel bad because I think I ghosted them, but not by accident. I'm fully aware, but like I had made an appointment with them, but at the same time, I had met with their basically immigration advisor, and they were like, we can't really do much. Just the best thing to do is for you to go back home to America and come back and get another like sponsorship. And I'm like, okay. So that was something I had to deal with. And I had to basically figure out I have to get a plane ticket home now, because this is going to happen either way. Got to get a plane ticket home. Because I hadn't moved yet. So I had to figure out how to get all of my stuff out of my apartment, because my apartment contract also ended the same day my visa ended. So I put everything in storage. And so my stuff stayed in storage for about like 7.5 months, and I had to pay every month for that, which was it was really rough financially, because I had saved enough up. I had sold my car that I had bought myself at the beginning of my 4-year stint. Well, technically I had a free car, and then that broke down, and then I bought a new car myself. But so I had bought a new car, and then I sold it. And I had quite a bit of savings, like, saved up, because the jet salary is very good. Like, that one's a guaranteed raise every year. And I was actually, like, I was able to send home money for a short while before the economy happened. Like, the economy tanked due to the pandemic. So I actually have a list of, like, every time I sent money back home, and how at the end of basically my 4 years, I was paying about maybe I don't want to say a third of my paycheck, but it was around like a third or a fourth of my paycheck to pay the exact same amount, to receive the same amount of money I was getting back on my first year. Like, my first year salary was like significantly lower than my 4th year salary, and I was getting the same amount back for exchanging. So I was paying like 1/3 of my salary by the end of it, when I only paid 1/4 of my salary at the beginning, which was totally like really stressful. I think that's really the reason why I started balding. But yeah, that was, I also started balding in the middle of the pandemic. I had to go to a dermatologist. Oof, that was really stressful. So I had a bunch of money saved up, because I knew where I was going. Like, I have to move. I have to find a new apartment, and like, Japan is notorious for like taking a long time for these like apartments to be like found, and being really expensive for moving. Because if I had moved from my apartment to apartment, it would have been way cheaper than to go to storage. So I was hedging my bets on finding a new job, but that never happened. So that was really like hard on financially. And then I had to like figure out a place to stay for the remainder of my time there on a basically a tourist short-term visa. And I think most people that I've talked to, at least my friends, know that Japan is notorious for rejecting foreigners for housing unless they speak like pretty good Japanese. So I had to go into a share house, which is not nothing wrong with share houses. It was just like that was not part of the plan. I had a spreadsheet full of apartments I was looking at. Oh, this is like I was thinking, oh, this is affordable. I can afford this apartment and everything, and that did not work out. So I had to go to a share house, which cut into a lot of my savings, by the way, because those share houses, they're very nice. You don't have to do anything. There's no guarantors. Everything is furnished. You have your amenities. You have a shower and everything. It's just like really expensive to set up. Like the initial payment, I think because it was also in the area that I was looking in, I should have like probably looked outside the city more. But I had chosen this share house based off of my future like prospects because like, oh, this company that I applied to is like in this area, so I'll look in this area. So yeah, so when you when you pay initial setup for an apartment, usually it's like you pay for the first 3 months. And I was not, but the thing is that this is a share house and I wouldn't be there for 3 months. So you had to pay monthly to guarantee that you're not going to just like dip out all of a sudden. So it's also good, like helps you be flexible. And so I basically did that for 3 months. It was fun. I met a lot of nice people. It was in a really good area near Tokyo, maybe like 30 minutes away. Really close to my friends who do live in Tokyo. I actually really like the location and I would not mind living there again. Walking distance to the station, nice bakery nearby. Like it was good living, but it was just expensive. I think that's the thing is like it is just expensive, and that basically took up all of my savings. I would say just living out the remaining like 90 days of my was it my short-term visa, and I could like, oh, why didn't you go home earlier? Because the plane tickets were expensive, like. No joke. I think this was like near when COVID measures were like easing up. People were coming back into the country again. Tourism was like still like increasing, not to the amount it is today because oh my god, that is like crazy. But it basically the country was opening up again. So like plane tickets were like skyrocketing because like Japanese people were also like leaving the country to go on vacation because it was like summer vacation. I'm like, well, because I like was it 30 days? I guess I'll leave in October, and that was fun. It was, but it was kind of nice to be able to live in Japan as a tourist for like long term because you can kind of experience a lot of stuff. Because like I lived in like Miyagi for 4 years, I can like actually like navigate Tokyo a little more, so I can be like, oh, I already been to all like the touristy stuff. I'm gonna go this way, and that was fun. And I could do that. It was nice. I got to explore a lot of like West Side Tokyo, see a lot of my friends. It's just like I said, it's just oh my god. I just think about it. It makes me really sad because by the time I went home, this is kind of my fault for like managing my money a little poorly as well. Because I went out a little bit because the share house had a kitchen and everything, but I couldn't like necessarily like cook for myself there for really well. I did go out and like I did like kind of splurge a couple of times because I was sad, and when I'm sad, I tend to not think about the money sometimes. I just want to feel better, take that dopamine, But basically, by the end of my my stay for the short-term visa, I did not. I don't think even. I think I had a little under $100 in my Japanese bank account. And yeah, I had to. That was really stressful because it was just like thinking about like I don't even think about this now. Like the exchange rate now is terrible. I think I stopped looking at it when I saw that $1 was around equivalent to like 160 yen, and I'm like, no wonder everyone's swarming Japan right now. I'm just gonna date this audio really quick, but yeah, that's basically it. Was like it wasn't that bad, but it was still bad to the point where like where a lot of the savings went into like housing, buying a ticket back, food and survival. And I'm so grateful for my friends because they were able to like help me at least lend me like some things like amenities, stuff for the share house that I didn't have right off the bat, like towels, stuff like that. I didn't like I had in storage, but I just didn't have on me. So this I had literally two suitcase. I think it was two. Yeah, two suitcases. Two suitcases just full of clothes and basically like necessities that I would use every day. So I didn't really have much, and that was really taxing. But overall, I would say that if I ever if I ever become homeless or like jobless in Japan, I have friends that can back me up. Luckily, I am very lucky and very blessed. But I would not recommend that to anyone. Yes, Japan is safe, but no, do not struggle. Don't struggle anywhere really. Just like have a good support group is all I'm saying. Like when your visa runs out and you're and you want to be like, hey you guys, what are you guys having for dinner? Oh, you having pasta? That sounds good. You struggling too? Yeah, me too. Remember, struggle together is easier than struggling alone. But yeah, that was fun. So yeah, I went home. I can't believe I keep getting sidetracked. But basically, I flew back home. Of course, I'm glad to see my family. I'm glad to see my friends. And that was probably the number one thing that kept me sane. And I got a call back from a company that I had applied to while in Japan, but they told me because of the new laws, this is the company that also like was the only people that would tell me why I was being rejected. It was like, oh, we can't hire you because of the new law, so you have to go back to America and go back, and which is the main reason why I went back, because I was like, well, this is my best bet, so I might as well go back. So I went back. Oops, I kicked the mic. So I went back and then proceeded with the interview in America. Passed that, and then they were like, you're accepted. You just have to wait. And I'm like, joy. And they're like, the latest you'll fly out is March. And I'm like, sounds good. So I basically had what October, September, November, December, January, February, March. So like 6 months. Could not find a part-time job in that 6 months. Well, I did. Couldn't find a part-time job for the first 3 months. And then the last 3 months I had a job. That was kind of like finicky. It was a restaurant service job. You know how that pays. But I was able to save up. Thank God. And of course, like everyone supported me. People were kind of like wondering, like, why are you going back? And I'm like, why am I going back? And just like being like, oh yeah, why am I going back? And I generally like my job, and it's really fun. I get to interact with students a lot, and I love working with the kids, and it's great living. It's safe. It's nice, But, and everyone's just like, okay, we'll come visit you. And I'm like, yeah, I'll hopefully have a place to stay. That's close to the city, but mind you, I am nowhere near the city, and it is a trek to get to where I am now. But basically, I did not know where I was going to be until maybe a week. I don't even think it was a week. I think I actually learned during orientation. No, I did. Okay. I knew which prefecture I was going to be. I knew that I was going to be in Chiba Prefecture. So if I'm going to like put you on a map real quick, right? Boom, map of Japan. You got that Tokyo Bay area down in the like middle area of the big island. And then Miyagi, boom, up to the north. You got like the little 6-hour drive away Miyagi. I did drive that, by the way. That's another story to tell. But that's far up north. So Tokyo, back to Tokyo. Now I'm in Chiba Prefecture. Boom, right next to it, to the right, on a map. And it's just like, it's pretty big. It's basically a giant peninsula that is on the other side of Tokyo Bay, which you would think, oh, that's so close. It's closer than Miyagi was, and getting to Tokyo is cheaper than Miyagi was. But it's still pretty far. Like, I would not be like, yeah, come stay at my place, and then you can hop over to, like, Tokyo the next day. It's more of, like, it's still a 2-hour train ride away. Mind you, it's not the Shinkansen, so it's a lot cheaper. But it is a 2-hour train ride away, which is, like, if I were to work in Tokyo, that's a long commute. Just saying that. I guess technically it's an hour and a half. I think last time I checked, I actually corrected myself. I should probably, like, yeah, it's probably, like, an hour and a half. Hour 45 at max. So it's still closer it's still closer, but like if you ever been to Tokyo, you know how these trains are, these like multiple train lines coming in and out of Tokyo, and how like Tokyo's really small. Where I am in Chiba Prefecture, the town is really small, and I have access to a train line, which makes it's nice to have a train that I can walk to now. That I don't. Back in Miyagi, it was like a 20 hours, God, 20-minute drive, and I could not walk to it. Now I can walk to the train station. Basically, it's really nice. It's a nice setup. I have access to it. That's the main key point. I have access to it, but it's still pretty far. But people can still visit me if they do, which is really good. I think. So I'm not trying to complain. I'm not being picky. I'm just saying, to state the facts, where I am now, it is pretty far from Tokyo. But basically, yeah. Now it's I work in a dispatch company. They do help a lot with like logistics, and like insurance and like getting a car and like figuring out like what to do with like bills and stuff, which is nice. But mind you, if I did not work in Japan 4 years prior to this, I would be so lost right now, because on the JET program, they have a lot of support integrated into like new, like when you arrive, because you have like senior teachers there, like foreign teacher English teachers, like assistant language teachers there that have been there for quite a long time, or at least in my city. Like my city was apparently like really special and really nice to the assistant language teachers. So they would actually like have like the senior assistant language teachers help the little baby ones that come in, like the fresh meat, and that was really nice. And they taught us, like they talked us through everything. And they had a supervisor that was really nice, and it was all situated within the same city, so we all had access to each other. Chiba is a little different. Basically, they plop you down and be like, okay, this is what you have to do. You gotta do it yourself. Good luck. Thumbs up. And it's not that bad if you're in a place that has a lot of like English speaking people, which is typically like, if you're the closer you are to Tokyo, the bigger cities, Osaka, the more English speakers you have typically. Because when I was in Miyagi, a lot of the city hall people, the people you have to actually like talk to for like paperwork and stuff, did not know English. So we had to heavily rely on our supervisor and our senior teachers. Here they kind of just plop you down. Luckily, I had the experience before, so I was able to help the other people that came, like who live in the same city as me but work in different areas nearby. So thank God that I had the experience. But my God, that was really stressful. I understand what my supervisor in Miyagi felt like now, kind of, because it was like, how do I tell these people that this is just how Japan is, and you just kind of have to deal with it. But it's not too bad, because you get a little perks. You get a lot of like social benefits, health benefits. Like it's worth it. Like the frustration of doing all the paperwork, which is Japan is like really well known for, is like really nice. It's like you can do all this stuff. But yeah, explaining that to somebody, especially who like from America, it's just like, but why can't I do this? I'm like, that's just the way it is here. And when you migrate to a new country, you just kind of have to like accept that. Now, don't have to accept everything. Like, of course, things that are wrong, like morally. But like, just because it's different doesn't mean it's wrong, as they teach you in like most study abroad programs. But yeah, that was settling back down was real tough. I think that I struggled the most with just financially. I came back to Japan with like minimal funds because I couldn't find like a good paying job, food service. You know how it is. But I was able to save up, and I am able to like get there and figure things out. I know what my resources are. I know I can tap into these resources. I was able to apply for a loan through the company, which was really nice. Help pay for the home setup, which was almost about, I want to say like 2K maybe in USD. And yes, I do have a tiny Japanese apartment, but it's actually a lot bigger than I expected, so it's actually pretty decent. I would say that my apartment in, I keep like looking around trying to like see where it is, like compare mentally, but my apartment in Miyagi, oh, I think it was like 90 square meters. I forget. I think that's a little big, but I think this one's like 35 square meters. I might be wrong. Don't quote me on it. Don't do math for me. I'm just guesstimating. But it's basically a third of the size, which I definitely took for granted when I lived in Miyagi, because after I got all my stuff back from storage and they put it all in the corner, it almost took up half the room. But everything after you take everything out and you set things up, it fits better. I'm still actually so what was it, maybe like last month they delivered my stuff after I was able to finally pay for it with the loan. uh I laugh because it's like this is my own fault, but it's just I'm looking at it and like, where am I gonna put half this stuff? And it turns out I just kept half of it in boxes because I didn't need it yet until winter. Shoved it in the corner. I should have put it in the storage, the closet thing. And then basically, yeah, that was, basically half the stuff still packed up and I don't need it yet. And then the other half is I'm still actually setting up. But yeah, I need to stop turning away from the mic. But hi. Yeah, so now I'm pretty much settled in. I'm just waiting for payday, which is actually next week. So that's still pretty good. Ooh, yeah, I took a hit, a big hit taking this job for salary wise. And oof, this is actually kind of like a point of like that irritates me because like on the company's website they're like, here's the guesstimate salary range, and then you come and they tell you the actual salary. I'm like, well, based on where you live, because you live out in the countryside, cost of living is lower, and so you don't have to like actually earn that much more. I'm like, well, it would be nice though. It would have been nice if I had that money, so I can actually like live. But it's still a living wage. It's a livable wage. But only if you're not like going to Tokyo like every other weekend, because like that eats up a lot of money. Especially like I'm just thinking about it because I think one way from my station it's about like 2,000 yen, which is around like 20. If the economy was stable, it would be about $20 one way back and forth. But it's like I said, a lot cheaper than $200. God, yeah, that was fun. But yeah, so what was it? Oh, I forgot where I was going with this. But yeah, basically, living. Okay, I'm surrounded by rice fields once again. But this time, I'm near the ocean. Yay! What about tsunamis, you say? Surprisingly, this area apparently they have tsunami like warnings, but the way I guess like the way the peninsula is set up, the reason why it's not too affected is just because the way the land is set up, and because Miyagi has that bay area. When that big earthquake happened, it caused the water to surge a lot more than they expected. But yeah, I've been to the beach here, and they do have like seawalls and like sea wave breakers. Those like little giant like triangle stone things. A fun fact: the area I'm in is actually known as Chibafornia, so it's like California but Chiba, because beach culture is like super big here. The beaches are very pretty, so the sand was surprisingly soft. I've been to beaches in like Miyagi and beaches elsewhere, and this sand is so coarse, like it's like stepping on like tiny stones a little bit. But this one's like super soft. And I've been to beaches in Hawaii that had like super soft sand, and I would say it's like very comparable. So I'm just, but it's definitely not a sit down and like picnic and like sunbathe kind of beach. It's a surfing through and through beach. Not everyone, but like this is a surfing town. This is the host venue for the Tokyo 2020 Olympics for surfing, and it's really cute because like you have a lot of like surfboard, like surfing motifs. Our train station has like this little bench that has like a surfboard as the chair backs, And when you go to the beach, every like kids even are like learning to surf. You got the old people, grannies and grandpas. Like I'm not saying old grandpas, but like older folk are surfing. The young people are surfing. Kid like student age, like was it middle schoolers, high schoolers are surfing, and you have all these wetsuits. They got like they just walk into the beach in their wetsuits with their surfboard in tow, and I'm like, that's cool. I'm terrified of like being swept out to the ocean, so I'm not gonna do that. So I'm over there like picking up like seashells and like looking at the little birds. So oh, fun fact actually, there is not many seagulls at this part of Japan. Don't know why. I thought it was because how south I was. Because in Miyagi, there's like a lot of seagulls by the coast and like by the bays, and I thought it would be the same here. But there's not a lot of seagulls. Like there's apparently none really. And I was like, oh, it's probably because, we're down south. And one of the teachers I work with are like, actually, no, because they actually have it in like Shikoku, which is like further south than me. Like it's a little island. It's like a different island and further south. I'm like, huh, I wonder why they don't have seagulls here. So that's fun fact. Yeah. But yeah, I walk along the beach. I like long watches on the walk, long walks on the beach, But yeah, I just collect seashells, and I basically just use the beach area as like walking exercise. It's pretty. It's definitely pretty. It's definitely beach vibes. You can sometimes see people barbecuing there, surprisingly. But I don't think there's really much else to do at the beach besides swim and surf. I think people like paddleboard. I forget boogie board, not a boogie board. And I've seen people on some water skis out on not skis. What is it called, the water jets? But I think they're mainly for like not security. What's the word? Safety for like the surfers. It's funny because sometimes you'll see like an old grandpa or grandma digging up sand on the beach to put in their like little their little what is it called, the farming bags or something. They stick because they use it to like, I guess, block off their garden or something. They put it in their little bucket or bag, and they put it in their truck and they drive off. And I'm like, is that legal? Because I don't think that's legal in like most places, but I guess it's their beach now. And there actually there's a lot of palm trees here, because usually as a buffer zone for the Japanese coast, at least in my experience, it's a lot of pine trees, because those are like quickest to grow, sturdy, and they like work well to buffer. But there's like actually quite a bit of palm trees either used as decoration or just like at the beach. And I was like, oh, I don't think that's native, because they kind of look out of place, to be honest. But yeah, beach vibes, like surfer vibes, yeah, definitely a thing here, which actually contributes a lot to like kind of the schooling here, because this is the first Japanese school I've been to, and I haven't really been to many, but like they have like bleached hair. Like they allow their kids to have like somewhat bleached hair, not like all the way blonde, mind you, but like some girls have like under color where it's like like maybe 2 strands or something like that. But it's very visible is what I'm saying. These are also like younger kids, so I'm not sure if it's like applies to high schoolers or not, but like I would say elementary, middle school age, maybe like I think the youngest I've seen with like at least highlights was like maybe a 12-year-old boy, which it's funny. I forget what they call them now. Like, but it's not called frosted tips now. I forget what they call them. But like kind of like Guy Fieri style, like not white, but blonde tips, and his like hair is like specifically styled. And I wonder if it's because if their parents are like hairstylists and they just do a lot of that for their clients, and their kids just kind of like a model for them, which is I think is it's their business. But I think it's one of those like culture shock things, because we're always taught like, oh, kids can't have their like hair bleached and colored. Like definitely no color, but like bleach, I was surprised, because back in America we have like pink haired like middle schoolers already, and like blue haired, green hair, all the rainbows of the thing. And actually a lot more older people, like I wouldn't say how do I say old. I'm trying to think of a good age, but like probably retirement age people at the beach have like blonde, but also like purple and red hair, and I'm like, whoa, that's the first. And I'm like, wow, they really aren't reserved down here. So I can see how it gives off like, yo, this is like Chiba Fornia. I'm sorry. But yeah, it's just really distinct. Not distinct, just different. It's just very different from like what I was used to. But hey, if you're, hang ten, dude. Oh, and then they really love Hawaii here. I think a couple of places that I've been to have like some sort of like Hawaiian themed. One place even has like the Hawaiian flag flying, which is like kind of blows my mind because Hawaiian flag I've only seen in Hawaii. So seeing it like flown here, like least of like on a proper like flagpole and everything in front of the like you can see it from the road and like down the road. I'm like, what the heck is that? We're not in Hawaii. But yeah, there's a lot of Hawaiian themes here. Even the houses. So I'm actually in a neighborhood that have like quote unquote Hawaiian exterior and interior themed houses. But it just really means that there's like a lot of open windows, open spaces, a big kind of like Pacific Islander kind of like I guess design if you think about it like in a modern sense, not like thatched roofs or anything, but you have like that awning of where you have a deck, you have an awning, and then you just have like a really big windows, like really big window panes, sometimes maybe a balcony, but very like Western style like houses, not Japanese in any sense. I do like see them, like it's really like very stark contrast from like Japanese style houses to like these like American Pacific Islander housing stuff, and I'm just like, huh, that's cool. Like I can see like why it's nice, but it's also like I guess like the neighborhood is just very mismatched because of it now. But yeah, oh yeah, speaking because of that, because we live in a surfing like town. It's so everyone has a wetsuit, right? For like when you go to the beach. So they hang their wetsuits outside, usually on whatever porch or like deck they have. And it scares me every time I go out on a run at night or like near sunset. I'm like running, I'm like listening to my tunes. I'm like, yeah, I'm jamming. And I like look around and I see this shadow in the corner of my eye. I'm like, what the heck is that? And it's just someone wetsuit just drying out. And I'm like, oh my god, because because wetsuits are like you got the arms, you got the legs, just no head. So that part like freaks me out because you don't you don't just expect that. I guess I should expect it now. But like when I first got here, I was like running around like oh exploring my neighborhood on a run, and no boom, jump scare like please no. Jeez. What else is there? I can't. This place is like super. I guess like when I compare it to my experience in Miyagi, I guess Miyagi's more old fashioned and more like deep countryside, and this place is like countryside, but like the beachy like countryside. Because we still got the rice fields. Like we still got the rice fields. They're actually growing them right now, like prepping for spring. And like we got the rice fields. We got the long stretches of road with like no lights. And we got like the one grocery store that you have to like drive out to go to. And you got like the one like drugstore that you have to go out to. You even have like those Japanese like what is it, fruit and vegetable stands where it's basically based off like the honesty like honor system where it's like take one onion for like 100 yen, which is really good because everything like locally grown, it spoils fast but it tastes great, so just buy the stuff you need and then cook it that night and it's all good, really cheap too like compared to like the grocery stores. But yeah, that's super nice. We had that back in Miyagi and here now, so I'm just thinking like comparing wise, I think the culture is very like we got that like the Midwest culture and like versus Southern culture. It's kind of like that. Like, yeah, we're still both in America. We got that American culture, but like one still is really distinct. So I think that's probably what I'm like getting. And the more I live here, the more I'm getting it. Like city living, I'm definitely not a city person. I do not like the city, but city living so different than the countryside living here. Like you can walk in the city. It's very walkable. You have access to so many things, like medicine wise, fashion wise, shopping wise. Like over here, you're like, oh, the closest dermatologist is like 30 minutes away. Yay. But you'll never run out of dentists. I really don't know what it is about Japan and their like surplus of dentists, but it's been interesting because you look up dentist on Google Maps, and like in my tiny ass town, there's like 5 of them. You go to another like out of nowhere city and you type in dentist, you'll still see like 5. So you're like within arm's reach of a dentist no matter what in Japan. And a barber. Oh my god, and a barber. I think every other I think maybe it's maybe a small town thing, but you always have that like really old barber shop that still has like the little spinny thingy, which is nice and everything. But in the city, like it's like you're walking to like a museum, and out in the countryside, you're just walking to like, hey, they open up the door and they'll be like, hey, welcome. It's very much like old timey versus like modern, and it's super cool. But it's also like really weird because it's like the two things that you'll never have a shortage of in Japan are barbers and dentists, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's like a lucrative thing. It's easy to get their license, but that's always fun to see, because you'll see like the weirdest names too. I can't recall them now, but that's basically it. But yeah, that's it for me. I think that an hour might be my limit. Who knows? It is pretty late at night as well, so I kind of want to try to wrap this up a bit. But yeah, so no format really planned, no like set format yet, but I am open to any and all suggestions. If there's anything wrong with the audio, please tell me. Like I said, this is for you guys, my friends and family. Those come first, always. So if you guys want me to talk about something, of course I live in Japan, so that's gonna be like an easy thing to talk about. And of course you can always ask anything that you want to hear. I will get to it. I know someone has already requested Kirby, and I could talk about that for an hour. I don't really know what I would talk about, but I'm pretty sure I could talk about Kirby for an hour, at least all the stuff that I'm looking on my shelf. But yeah, I think that I definitely want to try talking about at least like working in Japan, at least as an assistant language teacher. Because there's plenty of stories on the internet of how to like work in Japan. Because I see TikToks. I don't know why I get the TikToks catered to me about it, but yeah. But if you like, I could talk about that if you really wanted to hear what I think. But yeah, if there's everything's free game. But yeah, mostly just Japan things I'm pretty confident I can talk about hours on. For format, I'm thinking, I wanted this to be like have some sort of drawn aspect, but I think I like the idea of just getting a real potato, putting like miniature glasses on it, and putting on a miniature chair, and I think that's like super cute, super fun. Not too, I mean, it's not like super stimulating, but yeah, I think it's cute. You let me know what you think, but yeah. I have like the miniature set up, like the computer set up and everything. So I want to use that somehow, but I'll see how I use that later. And I guess what else is there about this? If there, I guess that's it really. I guess I gotta work on my outro now. I could be like, bye, see ya. What do the YouTubers do now? Bye. Japanese YouTubers go like, see you next time, and the kids love it, so I don't know. Gotta help me on that one. But yeah, I will, I guess, talk later. Bye.